The air in Castle Sicetta does not smell of lavender, nor of the roasted meats of a royal banquet. It smells of copper. It is a sharp, metallic tang that clings to the velvet tapestries and seeps into the stone floorboards. In the flickering amber glow of 1,000 candles, a woman stands before a silver mirror. She is Countess Erzsébet Bathory. To the world, she is the most powerful woman in Hungary, a pillar of intellect and silver-blooded lineage. But as she tilts her head, tracing a faint line near her eye, the mask of the noblewoman slips. She does not see a queen. She sees a predator losing its edge to time. And behind her, the heavy oak doors groan shut, locking a terrified servant girl inside a room from which no scream ever escapes. The legend says she bathed in the blood of 600 virgins to stay young. But the truth is far colder and far more human. Erzsébet was never meant to be a victim of history. Born into the most formidable family in Transylvania, she was a child of intellect and iron. While other noblewomen were taught to needlepoint, Erzsébet was taught Latin, Greek, and the brutal mathematics of estate management. At 15, she married Count Ferenc Nadasdy, the Black Knight of Hungary. He was a man who lived on the battlefield, leaving Erzsébet to rule their vast territories alone. For 20 years, she was the law. She managed armies, settled legal disputes, and protected her people from Ottoman incursions. She was brilliant. She was wealthy, and she was utterly, terrifyingly bored. When Ferenc died in 1604, the silence in the castle became deafening. In the 17th century, a widow, even one as powerful as Erzsébet, was a target. Her enemies circled like wolves, eyeing her land and her gold. It was then that the obsession took root. If she could not be loved, she would be feared. And if she could not be young, she would be eternal. It began with a vanity that curdled into a sickness. Rumors whispered that an old crone, a practitioner of the dark arts named Anna Darvulia, had crawled into the countess's ear. She whispered that the blood of the young was a vessel for vitality, a literal fountain of youth. The treatments started small. A slap that drew blood, a needle hidden in a hem. But soon, the cellar of Castle Sicetta was transformed. The scene was a chilling theater of shadows. The countess would sit on a high-backed chair, draped in white silk, watching as her inner circle, a cabal of loyal, twisted servants, carried out her whims. They targeted the Grendel, the peasant girls sent by their parents to learn etiquette at the castle. These girls were invisible to the law. In these secret chambers, Erzsébet didn't just seek beauty, she sought control. She believed that by consuming the life force of others, she was transcending the mortality that claimed common men. The bath was likely more metaphorical than literal, a series of horrific medical bleedings, but in the minds of the terrified village folk, the countess was transforming into something non-human. A creature of the night. For years, the high walls of Sicetta kept the screams muffled, but you cannot disappear hundreds of daughters without the earth beginning to moan. Farmers spoke of the Blood Countess in hushed tones. They told stories of girls entering the castle gates in their Sunday best and leaving in shallow, unmarked graves. The local Lutheran ministers began to omit her name from prayers. The political tension was reaching a breaking point. Erzsébet owed the King of Hungary, Matthias II, a staggering amount of money. Her existence was a debt he didn't want to pay, and her power was a shadow he wanted to eclipse. The turning point came with a fatal mistake. Erzsébet, emboldened by her perceived divinity, began to snatch the daughters of the lower gentry minor nobles. Unlike the peasants, these girls had names that mattered. They had fathers with swords and cousins with influence. The whispers turned into an outcry that reached the capital. By 1610, the countess had descended into a fever dream of cruelty. Witnesses later described her as the owl, staying awake all night, roaming the corridors with a silver pin in hand. She was no longer a politician. She was a ghost haunting her own halls. On a freezing December night, Count György Thurzo, the Palatine of Hungary and a former friend of the family, led a group of armed men to the castle. They didn't knock. They burst through the heavy doors and descended into the kitchens. There, the horror was no longer a rumor. They found girls dead, girls dying, and Erzsébet composed, dressed in her finest black lace, standing over them as if she were merely inspecting the linens. She didn't fight. She didn't cry. She looked at Thurzo with the cold disdain of a woman who believed she was above the laws of men. The trial was a sensation, but Erzsébet was never allowed to speak. Her servants were tortured and executed, their fingers torn off before they were burned. They confessed to everything: the rituals, the numbers, the blood. Because of her noble blood, Erzsébet could not be executed. Instead, her punishment was a living death. She was taken to a small room in the highest tower of Castle Sicetta. The windows were bricked up, the door was walled over. Only a tiny slit remained for food to be pushed through. She lived in total darkness for 4 years. No sunlight, no mirrors, no blood. When a guard peered through the slit in August 1614, he found her lying face down on the floor. The most beautiful woman in Hungary had died a withered shadow in a stone box. History remembers her as the world's most prolific female serial killer, a vampire in all but name. But look closer at the shadows. She was a powerful, wealthy widow in a world run by men who owed her money. By branding her a blood-soaked monster, the king was able to seize her lands and cancel his debts. A woman who wielded absolute power in an age of absolute cruelty, only to find that when you play God, the world eventually demands a sacrifice. The Countess is gone, but the copper tang in the Arabs' etched remains. A reminder that some legends aren't born from shadows, but from the dark things we do to stay relevant in the light.